Hey, what's up guys? I'm back with a review of the Master Grade 2.0 Freedom Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam Seed. As per usual, I went ahead and panel lined the kit so that it would show it better on camera. Of course, seeing as how most of the kit is an off-white. Now, we're going to go ahead and get started with size comparison. So, from top to bottom, the kit without a base stands just about 8 inches to the top of the V-fin, about 7.5 to the top of the head. Now, let's get him off the stand and we'll take a look at him. Alright, off the stand, the kit is exceptional in detail. He's roughly about the size of the Justice, meaning he'll stand large next to any kit you put him next to, considering the fact that all the Seed suits are relatively huge in their size scale compared to something like the old UC suits. Last time I read, about 75 feet or roughly 22 meters. And just like the Justice 2.0, the Freedom does take a little bit of liberties with the design, making things a little more slimmer and shapely. And albeit nicer looking in the proportions and the design, of course it adds a few spare panels here and there, like in the arms and parts of the skirting armor, parts of the upper legs, parts of the feet. And it makes it a nicer looking character. It adds more of an hourglass shape to the chest, which adds more of a, well, seam line proportioning. It looks a little nicer. It's all the way around a better looking kit than the original. But one of the biggest cons the kit has is that all of the nubs are placed extremely weird for a modern Master Grade. Example, on all the dark gray parts on the kit and all the navy parts of the kit, nubs are placed in a spot that would show up immediately. Like on the knees, it's placed directly here on top. On the chest, they're placed on top of the shoulders. And at the sides here, they're not going to be covered up by anything, so that's a deterrent. No matter how much you sand, this is made of that same type of navy material that a lot of high grades are made from, that really just looks terrible. It just doesn't do anything no matter how much you sand it. It just keeps getting progressively worse and worse as you go, leaving more marring than it does actual sanding. But the white cleans up great, the red cleans up great, the light blue cleans up well enough for light blue. The kit is going to need a stand because, well, I mean, it's going to have to. It can't support its own weight because of that massive backpack. Luckily, you're given a action base. I say that in quotation marks because the actual connection point you're given for the action base just doesn't work that great. It has to peg in here to this strange little area here on the back. I don't know how well you can see that. Let me spread it out for you. Yeah, that's not an easy place to get a connection to a base to plug into. I'm used to most of them being between the legs, not having to somehow slide onto a backpack. I still haven't figured it out yet, so I'm just leaning him up against the action base. But while I got him like this, we'll run down the articulation of the wings. So, the wings, of course, can spread out into the multi-paneled wing that they're supposed to be. But that also weighs the figure down quite a bit. Well, I should say weighs the model down a ton. But it does look nice. Once it's fully out, it looks wonderful. Really adds some size to the model, adds some depth. Looks great. It's all in all a very nice looking way to display the kit. And then of course you can close the wings easily enough. They do key in place, so as long as these back three are lined up, you should be good. You can flip out the cannons of the railgun like this. You'll have to, of course, put them back here, and then, yeah, that'll happen a lot. You'll drop that panel off all the time. It's not really designed in a way to make it a little less awkward. because it's just the way it's made. But you can stick that there, make sure that panel's down, and just pull it up and around. And again, this may look a little off. I've not seen Gundam Seed in forever. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, and you can just pull the barrels out. They do slide out. They're on a sliding joint. I mean, not the best sliding joint in the world, but a sliding joint nonetheless. And yeah, there you go. There's that. That looks, well, about as well as you'd expect it to look. I mean, there's not a whole lot else you can really do with it. It looks the way it's supposed to look. It's got the right, let me zoom out a little bit for you. And it's got the right look and proportioning for you. It looks good. But yeah, essentially we're gonna have to, aside from that, the kit's pretty solid. Just to get it back in, of course, you're gonna want to shove the barrels back in, flip this back around all the way, lock it in place. That actually works. I'll take that, pop that there. And yeah, this whole thing is articulated nicely. I mean, this back piece has more articulation than most modern high grades have. So that's good in a way, but it's also rather tedious in some ways because, as you can see, just finagling with the wings, it's kind of hard to really get them to stay in a certain position. It's not the easiest task. It's understandable. I mean, you got a lot of plastic you're working with here. But yeah, it just attaches like it would any other striker pack. I'm going to leave those off for the rest of the review just to make things easier. I mean, those are quite cumbersome. But yeah, I mean, that head sculpt looks great. That's one of the things I've always loved with the Freedom, is that more aggressive head sculpt that it's known to have compared to other Seed suits. The golden eyes look good. The foil seals for the eyes look good. Like most master grades, there is a drop-down cockpit. We get a little tiny pilot in there. I don't know how well you can see the pilot. He is fully painted, but he is in there. Then, of course, the head is on a double ball joint. It can look pretty much every way you need it to look. The neck is on a pivot. The torso doesn't do much except lean forward. That's pretty good. Lean back. Not at all. Side to side, barely. Shoulders, the shoulder pad pivots. Shoulder goes horizontal. You've got a little bit of a bicep swivel. Good double jointed elbow. That looks nice. Better than 1.0. The wrists are on a ball joint connected to the slip joint here. And yeah, that doesn't hold up the best, but it's okay. I mean, it's definitely better than the 1.0 was. Same for this side. The rail guns at the hip pivot out and then pivot forward. And then the back part of the rifle pivots out and the handle flips out. Then, of course, you have the interchangeable fingers that can grip this, and you can have the railgun completely deployed. That's a nice touch, in my opinion. That definitely looks good. And then, of course, the handle folds back in. This folds back. This folds up. Gets out of the way. This side's a little finicky. I don't know if it's just my copy or because I might have messed up the first time I assembled it. But this hinge down here is a little wonky. It doesn't want to stay seated as well as this one does. But aside from that, it's not bad. Your beam saber handles store right here at the top. The skirting armor is all separate, so it can all pivot and get out of the way when it needs to. The hips are on a weird sort of drop-down hip. Here, let me bring it a little closer for you. Meaning all that mechanism hinges and works together, so you can get completely horizontal out, all the way down. You'll have to finagle it to get it forward, but all the way forward, all the way back, little bit of a pivot there at the top, a double jointed knee, and the armor panels will slide to get out of the way for it. And that's really good range, especially for a master grade. The armor, of course, will separate when it's moved. It's a nice touch. The feet are on a double ball hinge like usual. A little stiff on my model. That may just be, again, because how tight the assembly in there is. The detail on the back's great. The little details for the markings are great. It's nice. That's a nice touch that's there. And then, of course, you've got a little better look at the articulation on the back, like the skirting armor that pivots out of the way, the top hinge here for the torso, the little slip joint that this back piece is connected to that you have to keep positioning. Articulation's the same for both sides. The only problem with these slip joints is that it makes standing him up a little bit difficult due to the fact that you have to make sure both those joints are in the exact same position. If not, they're going to look weird, like there on the skirting armor. All right. Yeah, all right. That looks pretty good. For accessories, you get your standard spread of what master grade seed kits have been coming with. You get the beam rifle with the drop-down handle that pivots out to the side. I'm sure you can see that. And of course, the little piece that pops out here, so you can get the hand in and pop it back in place. The whole handle pivots out, pivots forward. This drops down, pivots to either side, folds back up. The barrel's got enough detail. The scope has a metallic blue sticker you put in there. I didn't, I just used a Gundam marker. The beam sabers are the typical massive beam sabers that come with all seed master grades. The handles are what's off the Justice, so it looks good. They look cool. They have that same gimmick where you can plug the two together to make a staff. I myself have never done this. I've never displayed it like this, but I mean, I know it is accurate. And then, of course, when you're not using it, the sabers do pop out. Then they do store, like I showed, on each side of the skirt. And they go in the hand in sort of a strange way. The beam saber handles store right here in this orientation. If I go from what the instructions vaguely do tell me, I couldn't really see too great. It was, you know, one of those weird angles I was kind of looking at. Being hunched over my desk like a gremlin will do that. But yeah, they look good. They definitely fit well. They hold in place surprisingly snug. They are snug enough where if you are not careful, you'll pop this whole assembly off trying to get them on. But they look good. In order to fit in the hands, you've got the standard modern master grade thumb on a ball joint and then the fingers interchange. I would do that now, but it's a little too tedious to do on camera. But no, you do have a spread of open hand, fist hands, gripping hands. The shield is your standard affair of your master grade shields. Really detailed on the inside, detailed enough on the outside. Little drop down handle that pivots and fits on just like every master grade shield in the last 2 decades has fit on. You just put it on there, drop the handle down, and there you go. Looks good. Fits well. Fits the way it should. I don't have the handle attached because there's no reason to. It's just for display purposes. But yeah, I mean, usually with the Freedom though, you'll want to keep him displayed with the wings on, the rifle in hand, and the beam sabers, obviously. I mean, the whole point of buying a Freedom is to have it look like the Freedom Gundam. Like this, it just looks like an upgraded version of the Strike. Definitely not a bad thing, but definitely not the coolest either. As for the beam saber effects, they don't seem like they want to plug into the rifle, so there's no way really to get a blast effect out of it. That's kind of sad. Doesn't want to plug into either one of these or either one of the rail guns on the back either, so getting, again, a blast effect is going to be a little difficult, but there are some third-party options out there that work just as well. The color separation though on this kit's amazing. All the reds are a separate piece. All of the yellows are a separate piece. All the light grays here on the face, the light grays here throughout the torso are separate pieces. All the blues are separate pieces. They all fit together well. You have the typical Seed 2.0 frame where you really don't have much of a frame. I mean, most of it's like a giant high grade at this point, which is good. It means it's better engineered than the 1.0, where the inner frame was more detailed than the actual outer frame, which didn't make a whole lot of sense considering that you never really saw the inner frame on these suits. But I would definitely recommend it. It's a very, very good kit. I would say try to get it more on sale at like a Hobby Lobby, because some of the flaws the kit does have does make it a little hard to actually recommend as a must-have. If you're a Seed fan, obviously it's a must-have, but one of the biggest issues being that the glaring issues the kit does have does make it extremely hard to recommend it to most folks, unless you either are a fan of the look, fan of the design, or you can find the model for cheap, because it does do some really good things really well. I would recommend you pick it up brick and mortar with a few coupons. Of course, if you can find the 1.0, it's always fun to get and compare, but that kit's getting so old that you're probably never going to be able to either find it again, or if you do, people want ludicrous amounts of money for it, for a kit that's far worse than this. All the flaws this kit has are nothing compared to the original 1.0. Definitely pick this up, especially if you like the design. In the next video, I'll be reviewing a Witch from Mercury kit. The first time I'll actually be reviewing a Witch from Mercury kit since the series came out, which wasn't that long ago, but I'll give a little bit of my opinion on the series too. But I'll see you guys in the next one.